Hello, I'm Archibald Chesterfield III, and today we're talking Rolex vintage sports watches. This is a series where I reflect on classic Rolex vintage sports pieces I've owned and enjoyed. It's only fitting that the first piece we talk about is ArchieLuxury's first ever Rolex, the Rolex Explorer 1 1016. It's timing, it's luck, but Archie managed to get this piece pre-boom. Basically, Archie was a young man. I was 18 years old. I had a quartz Omega Seamaster. Not a James Bond, one of these trendy dress sort of Seamasters, bullshit sort of thing. I wanted a real watch. I started looking around, and I knew it had to be Rolex. I ran a small computer business. I was selling computers, hardware, software, upgrades. That business is no longer something you'd make terribly much money in. But at the time, things were good. I wanted a Rolex. I had a client who was a jeweler. I said to him, get me a watch. This was before the days of pre-owned dealers. I lived in Brisbane. I'd never heard that pre-owned dealers existed. I'd never ever heard of that. I didn't realize there was such a thing. So it's very, very interesting indeed that I said to my friend the jeweler, I said, get me the cheapest Rolex you can get. And I gotta tell you, this was 1990, and he got me a Rolex Explorer 1 1016.
We specialize in the repair of Rolex and Patek Philippe watches. We've been doing the same thing for more than 25 years. We have Rolex technicians certified by Rolex who actually used to work for the company for many years, like if we're doing the work on the factory. We completely disassemble the watch and we put it to work like brand new condition. When you get a pre-owned watch, it's like if you're getting a brand new unit. The only difference is the money.
And I gotta tell you the truth, I was actually a bit disappointed. I said to him, get me anything. I don't care if it's an Air King. Get me an Air King. Get me a Oyster Perpetual. I don't care what it is. So when it turned out to be an Explorer 1, it was, well, I saw it, I liked it. I did like it. It had that black dial. I would never have picked it, to be honest with you. If I had real money, I would have probably picked a Datejust in steel. I would have picked something a bit more fancy. And I remember my dad saying to me at the time, oh, it's got a plastic glass there. Oh, it doesn't even have a crystal. You paid all that money for a Rolex. It doesn't even have a crystal. And it doesn't even have a date. He showed me his Omega Seamaster he'd just bought himself for the same money. A quartz Omega Seamaster. Not a waterproof one of these fashion, these 90s dress. They kind of use Seamaster. This is the thing about Omega. They use the word Seamaster to sort of just... it didn't mean it was waterproof, okay? And I even had a friend, Mark. G'day, Mark French. Mark French, who laughed at it and said, oh, that's not a real Rolex. Look at the 12 o'clock position. It should have the big Rolex logo there. This one here is not a proper, it's a Clayton's Rolex. It's for people who can't afford real Rolexes. I didn't really care. Mark was a bit of a nasty fucker who'd always have to take you down a peg, you know. He just was so insecure in himself. The 1016, how was I to know it was going to become one of the hottest commodities in the late 90s? And I just enjoyed it. I actually liked it. It was a Rolex. It was well made. I remember the box, the beautiful, the cushion and the green leather box and box. It was brand new. I bought it brand new. I remember I put it on my American Express card. It was $15.75 with merchant fee. Great piece. Absolutely great piece. Great piece. And I gotta tell you, in all honesty in all honesty, it was just a watch I wore. I enjoyed it. This was pre-boom and that there. And I remember I was in a nightclub once and someone said, "Oh, show me your Rolex." Show me this woman. And I may have been drunk, but I wasn't stupid. So all I did was I took it off my wrist and I just handed it to her like this. I didn't let go of the fucker. I didn't let go. So she could look at it, but she couldn't take it off me. I wasn't giving my watch. I may have been drunk, but I wasn't stupid. And that watch there, it was a cool watch, the 1016. It was just, I loved the simplicity. I grew to really love it. I grew to really love it. And it was just such a cool piece because it was, I found out later Ian Fleming, the author of the James Bond novels, had a 1016. James Bond in the book wore a 1016. And how did I find the watch? I loved it. It was vintage and modern because it was, you know, it had the newer style bracelet. It didn't have the flip lock. It had the oyster clasp. I loved it. I absolutely loved that watch. I loved it. Absolute minter. And it was an L serial number. The last reference, the last letter before the Sapphire version came out, which was the 14270. So it's an interesting thing, you know. I just foolishly, let me say this to you. Sometimes it's best you don't know what the value of these things is, because when you find out and you know it's hot. I sold it to Mark the Hammer. He was a big dealer in America on Time Zone. I sold it to him. I got about 7,500 Australian, which at the time, I think it was about 4.5 US I sold it, something like that. And I posted the watch via EMS to Mark the Hammer, and the fucking Chicago Mafia stole it, because it went to Chicago. EMS has got huge tracking. It went to Chicago, and the Mafia stole it there, and luckily it was insured, and I got most of the money back. But it's kind of a sad story, because it's sad to think that that piece there is, it's sad to think it's gone. And yeah, it is very sad. It's gone. I had it for so long, and it's been stolen as such. It's very, very sad indeed. So yeah, fuckers, it's a painful thing when this happens, but I didn't lose any money, so I'm all about money and things, so it doesn't really matter, I suppose, in another context. I bought a day date with the money, and then a year later I got actually 6 months later, I got a better example of a day date and sold the lesser one. I had an 18238 diamond dial, which basically was paid for by my 1016. But I gotta tell you the truth, sometimes it's best not to know the value, because I probably would still have it if I didn't know how valuable it was. And looking back in hindsight, when you know the value of it, you use it to plug holes, financial holes, and I don't know, it's a bit of a mixed bag there. Looking back on it, do I miss it? Yeah, of course I miss it. I'd love to have an L serial number 1016. I loved everything about it. I never thought it was too small. All these wankers who say, oh, the 36mm is too small. It was never, that was the size of watches back then. in many ways I really missed the watch, and I later on bought an Explorer 2, which the Polar lays homage to the 1016 that I own. So in many ways, I like to think that I've captured the Explorer essence by owning this piece here. So do I miss it? Yes, of course I miss it. I love the Explorer one. Would I buy another one? They're not cheap. They're not cheap. Would I buy another one? If Lady Luck shone my way, I certainly would, and I certainly wouldn't sell it. I'm ArchieLuxury, reflecting on vintage Rolex sports ownership. Tell me what you fuckers think of that.